Inna alhamdulillah wa salat wa salam ala wa rasulullah. Today we're going to do the last lecture of what happened, the mistakes of the companions in regards to Uthman. We stopped off yesterday discussing how the rebels had emerged upon the people of Medina from Egypt, Kufa, and Basra. The Egyptian representative went to Ali, trying to get the support of Ali, and promised to make him the caliph if he would support them in ousting Uthman. The people of Kufa went to Az-Zubair. The people of Basra went to Telha. All three of those eminent companions refused to take part in this plan. And we talked about how this is when Ali realized his mistake, that he should have spoken up earlier, that he should have not remained neutral about what was going on with Uthman, but instead he should have spoken up and lifted his hand to help Uthman, because he now realized that they were serious. The rebels were really going to try to kill Uthman. So Ali recognized his mistake, and immediately he tried to make amends. He went to Uthman, let Uthman know what was going on. He offered his allegiance to Uthman and his protection. But it was a little bit too late. And just as Ali realized his mistake, Uthman in turn realized his, that he should have addressed the lies, the slander, and the campaign against him when it first started. Okay? We talked about how the rebels came. When Ali and Az-Zubair and Telha refused to aid, the rebels took siege over Uthman's home. And in the beginning, they only allowed Uthman to go to the mosque to pray. Well, things got worse, and this is where we pick up today. When the rebels felt that the people of Medina were not likely to offer active support to Uthman, they changed their strategy. And they tightened the siege that they had on Uthman. They now denied him the freedom to move about. He was no longer allowed to go to the mosque. And what the rebels did was they appointed Amir Gafiki, who was their leader, to lead the prayers in the mosque. So Uthman became a prisoner in his own home. The rebels, they forbade anyone to come and visit him. They stopped allowing people to bring food to him. They even denied him water to drink. Habiba, who was one of the wives of the Prophet, and she was also related to Uthman, because Habiba, she was a daughter of Abu Sufyan. She was a sister of Muawiyah, and they were all related to the Prophet, and they were related to Uthman. They were cousins. She went to see Uthman to try to bring him water and food, but she was not allowed to enter. And also Aisha, who was the wife of the Prophet, she too tried to visit with him to bring him food and water, and they wouldn't let her enter either. Okay? Now remember, guys, after Umar had died, Uthman was appointed the leader over the Muslims, and how long did he rule? He ruled for 12 years. For 12 years, he was a leader over the Muslims. And remember, as the leader over the Muslims, it is their job to lead the people on Hajj every year. Well, these people, now that the rebels had taken control over Uthman and restricted his movement, they did not even allow him to lead the next Hajj. So what did he do? He sent Abdullah ibn Abbas, who was the uncle of the Prophet Muhammad, and he was also a relative of Uthman's too. He appointed Abdullah ibn Abbas to be the leader of the Hajj. So the people would not allow Uthman to go to the mosque to pray, nor would the rebels even allow him to carry out his duty as a leader of leading the people on Hajj. So Uthman appointed Abdullah to be the leader of the Hajj, and he also wrote a letter. And he asked Abdullah ibn Abbas, he said, when you make Hajj, when the people gather at Arafat, I want you to read this letter to the people. And this is the letter that Uthman wrote. The letter said, dear people, the rioters have put 3 alternatives before me. They want qisas from me for any grievances that any person living may have suffered because of any verdict I've given them. Their other alternative is that I should step down as caliph so they can choose another one. And the third alternative they presented to me is that they should gather the people who support them and have all the people remove their allegiance to me as leader. He said all of these demands are preposterous. There have been rulers in history who had been vested with the authority to pass judgments. He was reminding the people, as a leader over the Muslims, it's my right. It is my right as a leader over the Muslims to give judgments to people who commit crimes. He said, but nobody has the right to sit over my judgments and demand compensation for them because they don't like them. This is a violation of Allah's laws, which it is. He said, and in regards for them asking me to step down, he said, I was given this position by Allah. I cannot abandon my post that Allah has given me just to appease the people. And then he said, in regards to the third alternative, that one is ridiculous. No ruler in his right mind would provide facilities to the rioters to rebel against him. He said, these people are apparently after my life. So here you can see Uthman knew that they were going to kill him. He said, these people are apparently after my life, and their sole objective appears to just kill me. He said, I have advised my supporters to not fight back. I do not want the Muslim nation to fall victim to a civil war. He said, I am prisoner here in my home, but I will watch developments with due patience, and I will let Allah decide what the outcome in regards to me will be. He said, if I have to give my life in the way of Allah, I will do it without hesitation. And I know as leader, I have done nothing wrong. He said, nonetheless, I seek forgiveness from Allah for any sins, and may Allah forgive us all and have mercy on us. So that's the letter he sent. And as you can see from this letter, Uthman did not appeal for any help. He did not ask anyone to come and help him. He did not want the Muslims to fight one another. He simply apprised the people of what was going on. He was against civil war. He did not want anyone to any Muslims to kill each other or shed any blood. Instead, he left his decree, his fate, into the hands of Allah. And he asked the Muslims to fear Allah and to hold firm to the rope of Allah, to hold together and to abide by Allah's laws. So here you can see, even though he was put in this situation, Uthman proved himself to be the believer, the true believer that he was. Now you can see why he was the best of this nation living on earth at that time. He was more concerned with the welfare of the Muslim state than he was his own welfare. So Abdullah ibn Abbas, who was the uncle of the Prophet, he read the letter to the people. And we don't know what the reaction of the people was, but history shows that there was no attempt made to rally any support for Uthman. It seems that the people just left after he read the letter, then the people just left. And by the time Abdullah ibn Abbas returned back from the pilgrimage, it was all over. Uthman had been killed. Okay, and how did that happen? Well, what happened was that when the pilgrims when the pilgrims left Medina for Mecca, the rebels, they planned out everything. They knew that Uthman had sent a letter to be read to the people in Mecca. And they believed that perhaps the people from Mecca would come to try to free Uthman. So the rebels gathered together and they decided, let's take care of him now. Let's kill him now before the people from Mecca come back from Hajj. So they then began their plan of attack. When word of the rebels' plan to kill Uthman got out, another companion, Mughira ibn Shuba, he went to Uthman and he told him, Uthman, they're going to try to kill you. Come on. There's 3 things you can do. Come on, leave. Leave. Just get up. He said, get a camel and go to Mecca, and I'm sure you'll be protected in Mecca. He said, or pick up some arms and let's fight them. We'll fight the rebels together. He said, or you can leave and go to Syria with Muawiyah, who's your cousin, and Muawiyah will protect you because the people of Syria support you. So here you can see Mughira ibn Shuba, another eminent companion. He was trying to, give Uthman some suggestions on what to do to protect himself. But being the steadfast believer he is, Uthman rejected all of that. He said, first of all, he did not want to be known in history as the first leader of the Muslims whose time blood is shed. He did not want to fight again, put a civil war in action and become known as the leader who calls the Muslims to fight. He said in regards to running away to Mecca, he said he remembered the prophet saying that a man from the Quraysh will be buried in Mecca, on whom would be half the punishment of the world. He said, I don't want to be that man. He said in regards to the third proposal, he said leaving to go to Syria, I can't do that. He said, I can never leave Medina, which is the city of the prophet. This is where I'm supposed to rule. The prophet said the caliphate will remain, with the Quraysh, and we will rule from out of Medina. He said, I can't leave my post here. So here you can see Uthman, rejected all 3 of those offers to, run away, to try to save himself. Also, another companion came to visit him when he heard the rebels' plan, Abu Thawr el-Fahami. Uthman told him, I refuse to run. He said, I want you to remember as follows. He said, whatever happens to me is going to happen. But remember that I was one of the first 4 converts to Islam. He said, I was one of the first 4 people to convert to Islam. He said, also, let history show that I had the distinction of marrying not 1, but 2 of the Prophet Muhammad's daughters. He said also, remember, let it be known to the people that I never used my hand for the life of this world. Instead, all my money and stuff was given for the sake of Allah. He said, and also let it be known that ever since I converted to this beautiful way of life, I have freed a slave, at least 1 slave every week. He said also, let it be known that I never, ever, ever fornicated. I never, ever, ever deliberately, intentionally committed any major sin. He said also, let history know that I was the one who preserved the Holy Quran, which he was. Uthman was the one responsible for protecting the Quran from being changed. He was the one that had the Quran put together in the format that we read it in today. And we recite it, you know, in the dialect of the Prophet Muhammad. He said, also let history know that I was one of the 10 people given the glad tidings of paradise during my lifetime by the Prophet. And also he said, let everyone know whatever happens to me, the Prophet was pleased with me. Abu Bakr was pleased with me. And so was Umar. So here you can see, despite knowing what they were trying to do, getting ready to do to him, Uthman refused to run away, cowered away, or fight back. He just simply reminded people of what he's done for the sake of Allah. And right after this, another companion whose name was Narrated Ibn Ayyad Islami, and you may read about him in some of the hadiths. Well, guess what? Not only did he was another one who defected and joined with the rebels. And he was the one who told the rebels of Uthman and just kill him. And this was sad because Narrated Ibn Ayyad Islami was an eminent companion too. When the rebels, under the leadership of Narrated, rushed into the home of Uthman to murder him, one of Uthman's slaves shot an arrow to try to stop them, and it killed Narrated. And this simply made the rebels even more angry. They demanded for that slave to be brought forward, to be chastised. Uthman refused. He said, how can I turn over a man who defended me? When Uthman realized that his home was under attack, he had the gates of his house shut. And remember, guys, we talked about how Ali made amends. When Ali heard that Uthman had been surrounded by the rebels, he sent his sons, Hassan and Hussein. They were the grandsons of the Prophet Muhammad. He sent them to stand guard and defend Uthman with their life. So that shows how we can't be angry at Ali. Ali made his amends. He swore to protect Uthman and sent his own sons to protect him. So Hassan, Hussein, also Az-Zubair and Marwan, they were the ones who guarded his house, trying to keep the rebels from entering into his house. The rebels, when they found the gates of the house shut, they tried to attack, and now fighting began. So you had the rebels fighting to get inside Uthman's house. You had Hassan, Hussein, who were the grandsons of the Prophet, Az-Zubair, Marwan, and a few other people trying to hold them off. In this attack, Hassan was wounded. He didn't die. And also Marwan was wounded too. But as you can see, Ali's sons, the grandsons of the Prophet, they risked their lives trying to protect Uthman from being murdered. But even though they were wounded, the rebels ended up reaching the home. And the rebels at this point was led by Muhammad, the son of Abu Bakr. They climbed through a window of Uthman's home. Now, at this time, while he was being attacked, Uthman had been fasting. The night before this happened, he had had a dream. He told his wife, he said, I had a dream that I was sitting with the Prophet Muhammad, and he told me, oh, Uthman, when you break your fast today, we will welcome you. You will be with me. You will be with Abu Bakr, and you will be with Umar. So Uthman had woke up that day happy. Despite knowing that his life was in danger, he was happy because he took that as a sign that Allah was pleased with him. And he would get to meet Allah and meet back with the Prophet and Abu Bakr and Umar. So he prepared himself to die. He was prepared to die. So when the rebels broke into his home, he was sitting reading the Quran, and his wife Naila was by his side. The rebels broke into the home. They came through the window, but when they got in, they were afraid to attack him. They saw him sitting there reading the Quran. It was Muhammad, the son of Abu Bakr, who ran up to Uthman. He grabbed him by the beard. And instead of Uthman fighting him off, Uthman looked at him and smiled. He said, "Oh, Muhammad, you are the son of my best friend, Abu Bakr." He said, "You look so much like him." He said, "And I love you as if you were my nephew." He said, "What do you think your father would say if he were here right now to see you grab me by my beard, attempting to cut my throat?" He said, "What would your father think, nephew?" That made Muhammad, the son of Abu Bakr, feel bad. So what did he do? In all his toughness, he let go of Umar and he left the room. He just walked out. When Muhammad, the son of Abu Bakr, walked out, this made the hypocrites amongst them angry. They jumped on Uthman, and they started beating him, hitting him in the head. His wife Naila threw herself on top of Uthman, trying to protect him. The rebels pushed her away, and they continued to beat Uthman over and over and over until he lay dead. So that's how he was murdered. He hadn't even broken his fast yet, guys. He was waiting for the sun to set to break his fast. He was sitting there reading the Quran with his wife. So he didn't even get a chance to break his fast. And what was the last deed he did? He died remembering Allah. The last deed you do can determine what your outcome be. His last deed was reading the Quran. So they beat poor Uthman to death. And when the slaves of Uthman realized that Uthman was dead, they became angry. And they jumped on the man who gave the last blow to Uthman and killed him. And then the rebels began to fight the household of Uthman. They began to fight with the slaves. And then in the meantime, Hassan and Hussein had brought some supporters. They managed to come into the house. Hassan was wounded. But the supporters got in the home and they began to fight. And there were a lot of people who were killed on both sides. Uthman's wife, Naila, and the women of his home, they had put themselves over Uthman's body and they were screaming and yelling. But the rebels were not done. They didn't want to just kill Uthman. They wanted to mutilate him, cut his head from his body. They wanted to cut off his arms. They wanted to cut off his limbs like he was a dog. So Uthman's wives, two of his wives, threw themselves on top of him to prevent the rebels from mutilating him. Finally, the rioters left the house when the supporters, when Hussein and Marwan and other supporters got into the home. Azubair, I think Telha too. When they got in the house to try to, fight the rebels finally ran off. But the damage had been done. Our beloved Uthman lie in a heap on the floor, dead, beaten to death brutally. And not only that, guys, the rebels refused to allow them to bury Uthman. Uthman's dead body lay in his home for 3 days. The rebels had surrounded the home and threatened to kill anyone who tried to come in that house to bury him. Finally, Uthman's wife, Naila, she managed to sneak out the house, and she went to one of Uthman's supporters and got them to help her sneak the body out. I think they snuck the body out at nighttime, and I believe I read that Ali's sons, Hassan And Hussein, I think Hussein, because Hassan was hurt. I think Ali's son Hussein was one of the ones that helped to sneak Uthman's body out of the house so he could be buried. But guess what, guys? When the rebels found out that they had snuck the body out, they went to the grave and refused to allow them to bury Uthman in the graveyard of the Muslims. Can you believe that? By the time Naila and the people who were helping her got to the Muslim grave, the rebels were there and they refused to allow him to be buried. They told him, bury him in the graveyard of the Kafirs. So they were forced to bury our beloved Uthman in the Kafir Jewish graveyard. Can you imagine that? That's awful, isn't it? This was the third best person of our nation. Uthman, the beloved. He'll be the third to enter paradise after the Prophet Muhammad. Not only had these people murdered him, but they refused to even give him a decent burial. He was buried in the graveyard of the Kafirs. Astaghfirullah. Years later, guys, when Muawiyah became the caliph, just so you guys know, Muawiyah had the wall that separates the Muslim graveyard from the Jewish graveyard torn down in tribute, in honor of Uthman, so that Uthman his body does lie, in what's considered the Muslim graveyard. He had the wall torn down where Uthman's body was. But can you believe this? They denied Uthman from even being buried with the Muslims. Okay, it's really sad. So thus, guys, that's how Uthman met his death. A terrible way to go. Not because he did anything bad, but because of Shaitan and his allies. And I want to share something with you guys. Let me see if I can open this up. I want to read to you guys some things from our Prophet, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. We have a hadith that once when the Prophet was living, he went to one of the gardens of Medina and he appointed Abu Musa Ash'ari to be the gatekeeper, to not let anyone in, because the Prophet wanted to spend some time, alone. Now remember, during the caliphate of Uthman, Abu Musa Ash'ari was one of his governors. Remember, Uthman had made him a governor. Well, Abu Musa Ash'ari tells us that he was with the Prophet one day in one of the gardens of Medina, and the Prophet had a stick, and he was slowly striking the water with the stick. And he told Abu Musa Ash'ari to stand guard over the gate and not allow anyone in. And as Abu Musa Ash'ari was standing guard, a man came to the gate and wanted to enter to talk to the Prophet. And the Prophet said, go and open the gate, let him in. And whoever the man is, because the Prophet knew who it was, because Allah had manifested to him who it would be. He said, go and open the gate and let this man in and give him the good news that he will be one of the inhabitants of paradise. So Abu Musa Ash'ari went and opened the gate, and guess who the man was? It was Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr had come to see the Prophet to spend some time with him. So as Abu Bakr was sitting with the Prophet received another revelation. Another man had come. Another man had come and wanted permission to spend time with the Prophet. So the Prophet said, go and open the gate and let this man in too. And tell this man too that he would have the good news of being the second person to enter into paradise. So Abu Musa Ash'ari went and let the man in, and guess who it was? It was Umar. And when Umar joined Abu Bakr and the Prophet received another revelation. He said, Abu Musa, there's another man getting ready to come. Open the gate for him and give him too the good news of paradise, and tell this man that he will enter paradise with a calamity. A terrible calamity will bring his death. So Abu Musa Shari went and let that man in, and guess who that was? That was Uthman. So here we can see, guys, the Prophet had let Uthman know, you will meet a terrible death. But don't worry, even though your death will come, and it will be through a terrible way, you will have paradise. And Uthman told the Prophet, he said, only Allah. I only ask Allah to protect me from that calamity. And that's also, guys, why Uthman did not raise his hand to fight back. Uthman did not raise his hand to fight back against the rebels because he knew the Prophet had told him that he would meet a terrible death, but not to worry, because he will be right with Abu Bakr, him and Umar in paradise. So that's another one of the reasons why many people believe that Uthman did not fight back. Also, in another hadith, Ibn Umar said, during the lifetime of the Prophet, we considered Abu Bakr to be the best of us all, and then Umar to be the best of us all, and then Uthman to be the third best. And then we use not to differentiate between the others. So here we can see, guys, the best of this nation was Abu Bakr. The second best was Umar. The third best was Uthman. This is why Uthman did not step down as Caliph. He knew that this was a position bestowed upon him by Allah himself. And that's why Uthman said, I am not going to leave my post. I only fear Allah. And then finally, guys, also during the Prophet's time, a wonderful hadith. One day the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was climbing the mountain of Uhud. And he had Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman with him. As they climbed up the mountain gave a shake, and the mountain began to tremble underneath them. Abu Bakr said, oh Prophet, did you feel that? Did you feel that? Did you hear that? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam smiled. He said, oh mountain of Uhud, be calm, because you have nothing but a prophet of Allah on you, and a man who is forever truthful, and two martyrs. Subhanallah. And when he said this, Umar and Uthman said, we know Abu Bakr is as-Siddiq, forever truthful. But why did you refer to us two as being martyrs? And the Prophet said, because that is how you two will meet your deaths. He said, oh Umar, you will be martyred in the way of Allah, and you will meet your death that way. And Umar was proud. He said, there is no better way to die other than that. And he said, and you, my beloved Uthman, you will have a brutal death. Your death will be filled with calamity and brutality. He said, but know that Allah is pleased with you, Uthman, as am I. Subhanallah. So here we can see, guys, Uthman, the Prophet already told him his death would come as it did. And so based on this and his realization of all those things, this is why many people believe he remained steadfast and calm. He didn't panic. That day that they murdered him, he was happy because he had just shared with his wife a dream he had the night before, that the Prophet was telling him, you will be breaking fast with us. Because again, he hadn't had a chance to break his fast yet. The prophet said, you're fasting. Don't worry. You will eat with me and Abu Bakr and Umar. And we welcome you. We welcome you. So Uthman, they didn't break his spirit. They may have broken his body by beating him to death, but they never took his spirit. They never took his faith. They never took his belief. And they never interrupted the status that he had with Allah. So again, the whole purpose of me teaching this series is not for you to turn against anyone or hate the companions, but to learn from their mistakes. For example, to learn from Ali. Look at how Ali came to his defense. Even sent his sons to guard him with their lives. Hassan almost died from the injury he had sustained. Okay? This is why I tell everyone, don't badly speak about Muawiyah. We're going to talk about, a lot of people talk about Muawiyah. Muawiyah was the son of Abu Sufyan. And just like his father Abu Sufyan in the beginning of Islam, remember they did not convert to Islam until after the conquest of Mecca. Muawiyah and Abu Sufyan and Hind, they played a great role for years fighting against Islam, fighting against the Prophet. But after Muawiyah and Abu Sufyan became Muslims, look at Muawiyah. Muawiyah was the one trying to defend Uthman. And not just that, Muawiyah sought qisas. And we may talk about that later. Muawiyah raised an army, the army of Syria. They came to get qisas for what these rebels had done to Uthman. So, whatever bad Muawiyah did before Islam, he erased all that with the good he did after. Just like his father did. Okay, and then again, so, the question that we need to ask ourselves is, what have we learned from this? Well, we learned, again, from what happened to Uthman. He was an example for us all, and he left behind many things for us to understand and learn. From his situation, we learned that if you are in a leadership, a position of power or affluence, and people start lying on you, don't sit there and say, oh, I'm just going to ignore it. Don't ignore it. Attack it immediately. Stomp it out immediately. Because if you don't, the people will take it as truth, and it'll make things worse for you. And also you learn that it's never too late. When you look at how Ali responded to this, it's never too late to make amends with Allah. It's never too late to repent. It's never too late to make right whatever wrongs you've done. And also you learn from Uthman to always, no matter what type of calamity you are faced with in life, be it death, be it losing your job, be it sickness, you learn from Uthman to always remain firm in your faith, remain firm in your belief in Allah, to know that whatever happens to you is going to happen, whether you like it or not. But if your relationship with Allah is strong, then you can handle it. You'll come out a winner just like he did. Even though he met a brutal death, he's a winner right now. He's in paradise. His soul is a green bird flying in paradise right now with his beloved prophet and Abu Bakr and Umar. Okay? All right, we'll stop right here for today. I think what I'm going to do tomorrow is speak about what happened after his death. Okay, what happened after Uthman was murdered? Everybody knows Ali finally did become the caliphate. But did it come with a price? That's the question. Okay, so we'll stop right here for